For many, North Carolina is considered the barbecue capital of the world. But the Tar Heel State has two very distinct types of barbecue. The Lexington, or Western style, is tomato-based. The Eastern style is vinegar-based. Many years ago, I worked in Greenville, North Carolina, and fell in love with that kind of barbecue. Regardless of your preference, thousands flock every October to the annual Mallard Creek Barbecue. In this week's Carolina Cooking segment, Jason Terzis gives us an inside look at the area's largest and longest running one-day barbecue.
It began as a small family gathering, but has grown into an annual tradition so big it's received national attention. A church benefit meal that raised $89 its first year now raises tens of thousands for charitable causes. Some of the traditions of the annual Mallard Creek Barbecue have remained the same for generations, while others have changed significantly. Barbecue is no longer cooked in underground pits, but the chopping process from decades ago remains the same today. The stirring of the Brunswick stew back then is identical to the way it's done now, and what was once a very formal gathering with women in dresses and men in suits and ties is now very casual. For 87 years, the fourth Thursday in October has held a very special place in the hearts of the members of the Mallard Creek Presbyterian Church.
My parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents started this church.
It all began in 1929. The church was having difficulty paying for a newly constructed schoolhouse. The idea? Hold a barbecue to raise money.
They had a building debt that they wanted to pay off is in the Depression, the beginning of the Depression. They raised about $89, paid off the debt, and that's how it all got started.
I think that first year it was a pig, a goat, some chickens, and we would raise money to buy this land and this four-room schoolhouse where my father went to school.
The barbecue was such a success, church members decided to make it an annual event and helped out in any way they could.
They would buy the pig, and that was kind of their donation, was to raise the pig, feed the pig, they bring him over here and slaughter him, and cooked it in pits in the ground.
As the barbecue grew and the amount of meat too great to cook in the underground pits, the cooking process changed. These days, wood gets tossed into burn barrels. As the wood burns, hot coals drop to the bottom of the barrels. They're then scooped out, brought inside, and dumped into the specially made pits. The meat is then put on large grates and covered with roofing sheets to hold in the heat. That allows the meat to slowly cook. Once done, the meat is pulled off. It's then chopped and sliced and sent through the grinder, where it's churned up and churned out. It's then spread onto large tables, where vinegar and cayenne pepper is poured over and mixed throughout. Once fully seasoned, it's put into tubs and loaded onto refrigerated trucks out back. A similar chopping process is used to make the coleslaw. The work is all done by volunteers, many of whom are church members, and many of the specific jobs get passed down within families, generation to generation.
If families worked on the stew and doing it, their children, their grandchildren, that now their great-grandchildren are helping out with that.
The only key is you have to find your own replacement. So I'm looking, if anybody wants to take my place.
The only people who do get paid are the women who stir the famous Brunswick stew. Using huge black pots and giant paddles, the women work in very hot conditions. But Charlene Harris has developed a way to beat the heat and pass the time.
Even when I stir my bumpers through, I talk to it, I dance to it. It makes it good because when you're happy, it makes your food happy.
So how does one church feed 25,000 people in a single day? It's a process involving lots of planning and lots of volunteers.
We have about, I'm guessing, 20 departments. Everything from parking to trash.
It may only be a once-a-year event, but it runs like a well-oiled machine. Volunteers are everywhere, from those loading up plates to those pouring the stew, moving the to-go boxes, working the drive-through line, and even handling the propane.
There's a person in charge of each department, and they're responsible for that job and getting their people.
When you have cars lined up 4 wide back out to the street and even up the street, things had better run smoothly for those dining in, at the takeout line, or at the drive-thru.
We get people in and out quick.
The barbecue has also become quite popular with local politicians because the timing of the event lines up perfectly with election season.
I've lived in the area for 32 years, and every year I would always see the traffic backed up. And just over the years, it's been a thing where politicians started showing up here and there, and now it's well known.
I think it's great because it gives the people the opportunity to come and talk to us.
The 2016 barbecue had 500 volunteers. 25,000 people were served. That's over 14,000 total pounds of cooked barbecue, including 7,000 sandwiches, 2,000 gallons of Brunswick stew, 2 tons of coleslaw, and 200 gallons of coffee. Tens of thousands was raised, with proceeds going to Hurricane Matthew relief funds in eastern North Carolina.
When Hugo came through, money went there. When Floyd came through, all the money went to Floyd.
Well, it makes you proud to know that people can come together, work together for a cause, not just for the church, but to help other people out.
The Mallard Creek Barbecue started as a family event 87 years ago to pay off church debt. It's still a family event, only now the family is much larger. For Carolina Impact, I'm Jason Terzis reporting.
Thanks, Jason. If you missed this year's fun, don't worry. Plans are already underway for the 88th annual Mallard Creek Church Barbecue in 2017. So, you know, Mallard Creek